Yeah. Wow. You know, somebody said to me last week that I didn't acknowledge that last week was Super Bowl Sunday. And, well, I was not unaware of that. I'm any more than I'm unaware that today is Valentine's Sunday. But I do have to confess that the Seahawks weren't in the Super Bowl, and I'm not in a relationship, so these things kind of blow right by me. You know? However, I am about love, so I wish love and happy Valentine's to all of you lovers out there. So, happy Valentine's Day. Now, last week we explored our yearning for union with the divine beloved and the power and the presence of love that this kind of oneness and communion brings to us. And today I want to focus a little more closer to home about human love, love of one another. Facts you thought you knew but really didn't. Love is the most Googled word on the internet. Did you know that? Yeah. It's like each of us has a love-seeking search engine within us, you know? So we are Googling it constantly. The greatest quest in life is the quest for love. We're all seeking love in some way, shape, or form. Now, our culture, unfortunately, nurtures sort of a mistaken quest for love outside of ourselves rather than a love from within. And we see it in movies and popular love songs. You know, looking for love in all the wrong places. Yeah, that would be looking for love outside, right? Looking for love in all the wrong places. That kind of seeking is driven by fear and a sense of inadequacy or a sense of separation. We're seeking to fill ourselves up with something from outside in instead of from inside out. That kind of love is conditional, it's dependent, and it shows that many of us are addicted to the approval of others instead of the approval of self or the approval of spirit. And I have to tell you that while we might find love in all the wrong places, it's a temporary fix. It's a temporary satisfaction because the inner insecurities remain even after we've found that supposed love from outside of ourselves. Rumi said, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." Yeah. So where is it that we are preventing love, not only from getting in, but more importantly, from getting out? Where are the barriers that we have built against it? You know, our true quest is not about seeking for love. It's about seeking to be love, to simply be the presence of love. And so our call is to nurture pure, mature, unconditional, agape, spiritual love. For ourselves, for one another, for spirit. It is within us already. We're born with it. It's innate in us. It's within us already, simply waiting for us to let it out. You remember that old joke? You call up the drugstore and say, "You got Sir Walter Raleigh in the can?" "Oh, yeah, we do." "Well, let him out." Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with love. Love is already in there. Let it out. Let it out. You do remember that joke, I can tell. I'm suspecting that some of you not only remember it, but you did it. I know I did. I love that one. They fell for it every time. That kind of love, though, that we let out from the inside out, not the outside in, that kind of mature, unconditional, agape, spiritual love overflows from a sense of sufficiency and joy and wholeness, from the fullness of our being. It flows from a desire to give love and to awaken it in others. And we realize that love is God calling to God. Namaste. Right? The major spiritual traditions of the world teach us to love one another. from the Judeo-Christian tradition. God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love one another as I have loved you. Love your enemies. There's the tough one. Love your enemies. From Hinduism and Buddhism, there's a call for an all-encompassing love. Gandhi said, love your neighbor as yourself, and every living being is your neighbor. Every living being is your neighbor. Love them as you love yourself. There are no enemies. Start nurturing love by cultivating love within and for yourself. This is opposite of what your grandmother told you. Start with yourself. If we cannot love ourselves, it is quite difficult to love another person fully. There's always something being held back. So we start there. As I mentioned last week, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, love is not the answer. Love is the assignment. Start with yourself. Love yourself, and then let it ripple outward from there. So your assignment this week, I have a specific assignment for you this week, and actually it goes beyond this week, but it starts this week. So your assignment is to stand in front of your mirror, look deeply into your own eyes, and say out loud, Susie, I love you. Actually, you put your own name in there, but if you want to leave mine in there, that's fine too. I'm not in a relationship, so bring it on. But put your name in there. Stand there and look yourself in the eye, deeply in the eye, to the point that you look into your own heart and soul and say, Susie, I love you. Terry, I love you. Catherine, I love you. Say that to yourself. What a great way to start your day. Seriously. And I would recommend brushing your teeth first so that they gleam. Ding! They shine. Start your day that way. What a great assignment. Make it an ongoing practice. Make it a daily practice to start that way. I want to share a poem with you about that kind of self-recognition, self-love, knowing oneself deeply. It's a poem called Love After Love by Derek Walcott. The time will come when with elation you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you best by heart. Sit, feast on your life. Be with yourself. Be with yourself. Be the love that you are. It's your true nature. And when we do that kind of spiritual work, love of self so that it overflows from the inside out, we transform the world by transforming ourselves. We talk about transformation. We go, let's change the world. That's a big leap. It starts from here outward, not, let's change all of them and then I'll be better. I think I can see that some of you tried that trick too. Called the drugstore, change yourself. Change your thinking, change my life. Yeah, right. Doesn't work that way. Start with yourself and we transform the world. One of my favorite philosophers, Anonymous, said, love is the doorway through which the human soul passes from selfishness to service and from solitude to kinship with all of humankind. Love is the doorway through which the human soul passes from selfishness to service and from solitude to kinship with all of humankind. The reality is that we see the world not as it is, but we see the world as we are. So the thoughts and the feelings that we invite and entertain in our heart and in our mind dominate and direct our lives. We fuse most with the emotions and the words that we use the most. So pay attention to the emotions and the words that you use. They are guiding and directing your feelings and your thinking and your actions and who you are in the world. Fear and anger and hate within us begets a hostile world outside of us. Love and compassion and joy begets a friendly world outside of us. Love begets love. So cultivate love and compassion. Love awakens us to the divine presence in everyone and in everything and in every place. And it starts here. Embrace all of life. All of life. 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 It's, life is a close word to love. Life, love, life, love, love life. Increase gratitude and generosity in your life. Desire to give rather than to get, to awaken love in others. Give what you seek most to receive. As St. Francis said, grant that I may not so much seek to be loved as to love, for it is in giving that we receive. Love is that kind of gift that the more we give it away, the more it washes over us. It comes back magnified. Be love in order to receive love. The love we give reflects back to us to warm us in its glow. I mean, this is the best boomerang in the world, love. Those Australians don't have anything on us, right? That's love. It's an ocean of love. Love is separation healing and heart opening and creation initiating. Love is the source of our creative vitality and energy. Love is that glow from within that animates our lives and the lives of those we touch. Mother Teresa encouraged us to spread love everywhere you go. First of all, in your own house. Give love to your children, to your wife or husband, to a next-door neighbor. Let no one ever come to you without leaving better and happier. Be the living expression of God's kindness. Kindness in your face, kindness in your eyes, kindness in your smile, kindness in your warm greeting. Be the love you wish to receive. Be that. Boundless love overflows and expresses itself in the world in amazing ways. We occasionally actually see that on the news. We see examples of boundless love, unselfish love being expressed in the world. I wish we had more than just a little clip of today's good news that takes, 30 seconds and the rest of the news takes half an hour. We can be that. We can be that good news. Love within us sees with the eyes of God. And when we see with the eyes of God, we see only good. There is only love. There is only love. Love brings forth the highest and the best in each of us, in all of us, in the one of us. Love binds humanity and the whole universe together in a divine harmony, in an interconnected wholeness, in unity. And unity is the key word that you're holding to call your new minister. You want to be in unity with this new minister, and you want to be in love with them. Start by being in love with yourself, and then be in love with each other. And I guarantee you, your lover minister will show up. Don't even think what you're thinking right now. I love it when I step into these things that I create for myself. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. True, pure, unconditional, agape, spiritual love never fails. So on this Valentine's Day, let's prove it. Let's prove that that's so. And let's have Valentine's Day every day. Why should it only be one day out of the year? Really, it's kind of crazy. We'll give one day out of the year that the card makers and the candy makers can make a bunch of money. But the rest of the year, let's just be the heart, the presence of love. Be the presence of love. When we are the presence of love, we give of ourselves, of our authentic beingness, and we become a blessing to the world. And in blessing the world, we transform it, and we are blessed. Teilhard de Chardin wrote, "The day will come when after harnessing space, the winds, the tides, and gravity, we shall harness for God the energies of love. And on that day, for the second time in the history of the world, we shall have discovered fire." Be the fire of love. Not just romantic love, but love of humanity, love of sentient beings, love of life. I want to close with a story. As I mentioned earlier, most of the spiritual traditions of the world teach that love is the single most potent force in the universe. And this true story from Japan illustrates that very well, I think. There was a Japanese man who was tearing open the walls of his house to renovate it. And he opened up one wall and he found this little lizard with a nail hammered into its foot. And he discovered that the nail was from when the house was built 10 years earlier. And with its foot nailed in place, the man was he was dumbfounded. He was like, wow, how did this lizard survive pinned to this wall for all these many years? And so he thought, gosh, that's got to be absolutely impossible. So he was kind of looking for clues, and then he decided to just sit back and observe the lizard to see what he did while he was stuck in that condition, to see if he could figure out how he'd survived all these years. And so the man was amazed and deeply touched when he saw that there was another lizard who appeared with food in its mouth. And apparently this other lizard had been feeding the stuck lizard for the past 10 years. You know, such caring and unconditional love is powerfully demonstrated between these two tiny little creatures. And we might ask, what can the power of love do? Love can produce miracles. That's what the power of love can do. And just think that that one lizard had untiringly been feeding the other stuck lizard for 10 long years without giving up hope or abandoning his commitment to the other little lizard. You know, if a small creature like that little lizard can love like this, just imagine what we can do with the profound power of love if we're willing to fully experience it and fully express it and to love one another. Imagine a world like that. You know, I want to share something with you. Several years ago, I went to a conference in Washington, D.C. called the Network of Spiritual Progressives. And it was spiritual people from every faith, and gosh, there were even some atheists. They were faithful in their non-belief. Anyway, the conference was very powerful. It was people who have a spiritual life but are also progressive in their outlook about how we should be with one another in the world as human beings. Sister Joan Chittister, a Catholic nun, was one of the founders of this organization. She got up one day, and it just really impressed me what she said. She said, you know, many of us in this room, those who are my age and older, and I'd say many of us in this room who are just slightly past our prime, we didn't just graduate from college yesterday. What Joan Chittister said was, she said, you know, our time to have the world by the tail has come and gone. Our time to be at the head of leadership has passed. Our calling now is to lead from behind and from the sides, to love enough the generations coming behind us, to create a container within which they can grow and deepen and know how to lead us into the next part of the future. Our leadership then moves to embrace them with love and wisdom such that they then lead us to the next greater yet to be. The reason I bring that up is because, you know, we we've been going through some growth and some changes and some experimenting and some trying new things in this spiritual community, and that's going to continue some when a new minister comes. We've been doing some wonderful things together, and I felt a wonderful bonding in this community that already existed, but I feel it's going deeper. But I'm going to ask you a really tough question. I'm going to ask you if you're willing to love enough, to serve enough, to create a community in this center that is not just here to meet and to serve the needs of the people who are here right now, to serve the needs and the wants of you who are already in this room. Are you willing to love enough, to serve enough, to create the space for this community to live beyond you and to meet and serve the needs and the wants of those who will come after you? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to have that big of a heart that this community then begins to do some things that maybe aren't your favorite thing to do, but they're the thing that will nurture those leaders of the future, those lovers of the future, those young people who will come and carry this on into the future? You know, Ernest Holmes said that there will be those, we stand on the shoulders of those who came before, but there will be those who stand on our shoulders, and they will know more, and they will do more, and they will take this teaching to levels we have not yet dreamed of. Are you willing to be the container for that in this spiritual community? Yes. Okay. I'd love to hear that with a little more enthusiasm. Are you willing to be Are you willing to be that big of a heart in this spiritual community? That's what I'm talking about right there. I appreciate that. It requires us to stretch out of our comfort zone. And that's, you know, I've been doing a lot of stretching you guys out of comfort zones. I've stretched myself a little out of my own comfort zone while I've been here. And I appreciate that we're willing to do that together, because it is that will create the space for those who will take it to the next level. I love you. I love you for that. Blessings on your journey of loving one another. Begin by expressing love to someone you meet out there today. And so it is. Amen.